what are child find notices?
Would you like me to respond to that?
Yes, please do.
So school districts at the beginning of every year have a responsibility to reach out to the citizens and students who are homeschooled or who are attending public school, private school at parents' expense, privately placed private school students, and for the general community to identify any students who might have a disability or might be under suspicion of having a disability. So I have reached out to the Full Circle School and to our homeschool students who we are aware of that have disabilities, as well as posting the notice on the district website just to bring that to the attention of the community. And if anybody so it has contact information on there that they can contact me in the district or the principal at their local school.
Okay, that's good. And what is a proportionate share meeting?
Okay, so that goes along with the child find, and those students who are homeschooled with disabilities or students who have disabilities that are privately placed at private schools within the catchment area, so within our 4 towns of our regional district. So part of the 240 grant that we have, the special education entitlement grant, part of that, the funds that we receive have to be allocated to support students with disabilities in those placements, whether they're homeschooled and have a disability or have a disability and are placed at at parental expense at a private school. So
okay, yep.
As I say, there's
I understand now.
Okay, great.
Thanks. Is there any other questions? Okay, hearing none. Tanya, do you have things you can walk us through?
Obviously, I have the regular financial reports, but I have been busy working with Cte on grants for the special ed, as well as amending some other grants that we have, working on trying to get FY20 closed out, working with the treasurer to tidy up a few of those things. I was hoping to have some reports for you guys tonight, but with the hybrid model starting this week and working on transportation again these last few days, I wasn't able to do that. So I do apologize, but we should have all the reports and rollover amounts and everything come our November meeting. As when the November meeting happens, I will be in the district. Our audit is scheduled for the week of November 9th. So I will be there for that. And if we have an in-person meeting, I will see you all. If not, I'll be on the computer again. But just busy trucking along. You guys have the accounts payable report, the revenue report, and the expenditure report. Again, for the sake of time, I don't want to go into too much detail about any of them. There also are a list of transfers, but none of them require a vote because they are within the categories of operations that we have decided upon. And I did get the expenditure report by category completed with the new budgets and all the new expenditure lines and everything, as requested by David last meeting. It was just a matter of getting some of the new account codes and stuff lined up in there. So you guys also have that. The only things that are still a little out of whack in our expenditure report that you'll see some either large negatives one way and negatives the other way is in our instructional assistant lines. And this is simply because right now, we're operating with the IAs that we still have on staff. We still have a few positions to be filled. So some of those positions are being shared right now and serving some of our remote students as well as our in-service students. So once all those individuals are placed with their students and determined whether they're classroom or special needs, once our hiring is finished, then those will be cleaned up in our payroll system and journal entries. So hopefully in the next month or so, I would have liked to have seen it cleaned up by this month, but no worries, there's not going to be anything overspent, but I just don't want anyone to freak out when they see those numbers for the instructional assistants, because we are still working on those and getting everybody placed where they belong.
Okay, is there any questions of Tanya? You got out of it easy this time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks a lot. So accounts payable were provided, as were the budget transfers and all the papers Tanya spoke about earlier that are on our agenda. There is a lunch report, though, that was sent. Is anyone on to speak to that, or is it?
Oh, I'm here, Mike Honorado.
Oh, okay.
Good evening,
Do you
everyone.
want to? Okay,
If we're ready, I can run through it with everyone.
that's great. Go for it.
All right, let me go ahead and try to share my screen.
If you can't, Mike, I do have it up. I can share that for you if you'd like.
Can you guys see this? Yes?
Not yet.
No.
Of course not. It's too easy.
Too easy.
Yes?
No.
Mike, give me just a second.
Thank you, Tanya.
You're welcome. I'm a pro at this. This time. There you go.
Okay, it's coming up now.
Oops.
Hold on.
There we go.
There we go. All right, so
Okay.
so for September, we looked at part of September's last year, last month, sorry. Yeah, last year. Last month, we looked at part of it just to understand what our numbers look like at the end when we finish off the summer meals program. So here, what we can see is this is for the full month of September. So for our federal income, our federal reimbursables, we had for the 2 weeks of lunch where we had our special population and we're providing community meals. We had $19,271 in federal reimbursements and $185.79 in state reimbursement. On top of that, the first 2 weeks of September, when we were still running the summer meals program, we had $14,413.28 in revenue in the way of reimbursables from the federal and state. Our expenditures, what we see here for our expenditures is we see our combined costs for the month of September for the school lunch program and the summer meals program. Combined total expenses for the month were $23,617.45, which is kind of what we expected, serving the amount of meals that we did serve. And it shows a net profit of $10,641.37. But one thing that Tanya and I went ahead and, Tanya went ahead and did is we scroll down through and we look at the accrued expenses area. So while it may say that our closing number, our total number right now is $43,000 in the positive, that's not entirely accurate because that doesn't include what we actually spent in September. And as most of you know, whatever we report in these school lunch reports has historically been for cost-wise, whatever we were paying for the prior month. So we put together this accrued expenses to give an accurate idea of where we are, because we don't want, last thing we want to do is plan on having a $43,000 positive when that's not really the case, because our expenses, for a lot of our expenses for September have not been paid yet. So our real balance as of today would be $15,867.23 in the positive, which is good. That's a nice little cushion. But in the next couple of months, depending on how long the USDA keeps this waiver open to be able to provide free meals to all of our towns, that should be able to increase, and we should get a better cushion for when that waiver expires and we're still in school, hopefully, in person.
Okay, does anyone have questions of Mike?
The only question I have is what is the reimbursement per meal? How is that figured in from the state and federal? What is the total per meal reimbursement? That's my only question.
Total per meal reimbursement is, I believe, $3.49 for state and federal combined for lunch, and $2.29 for state and federal combined for breakfast.
Thank you.
No
Okay,
problem.
thanks.
And one of the things, just real quick, and Mike can back me up on this too, one of the things that even though we have these higher revenues, the way that we're serving the meals, because they are grab and go, the costs are a little higher per meal than we would normally see if we were serving in a true in-person model, which again is one of the reasons we wanted to put that accrued expense line in there, because that includes the September food costs or any other costs that we incurred to serve those meals in September, but won't be paid possibly until November, depending on when those invoices and stuff come in, as well as the payroll that was just issued on Friday for, the last 2 weeks of September. So we're just trying to figure out, we figured out a way to make the reporting a little more transparent
Great.
rather than waiting for it to true up a
Yeah.
year.
Mike, you talk about grab and go. What kind of things are in your grab and go lunch?
So for those that we have in person, for in-person learning, like now we've entered the hybrid model, we've put together monthly menus for breakfast and lunch at the elementaries and at Pioneer. And of course, it's nice to have those ideas of what we're going to be able to serve. What we run into with an issue that we run into is product availability, because every school in the state of Massachusetts, every school in New England is serving meals almost exactly like we are. So it's sometimes it's hard to find those exact items. So what we're trying to do at the elementaries and Pioneer, now that we're entering the hybrid model, is to be able to feed or offer breakfast and lunch for free to those students in person. Many of them eat in the cafeteria, and then many of them also, the rest will eat in their classroom dinings. And then for the second part of that, we're still offering the curbside the distance learning meals. It's available to everyone, every child in any of our towns. And we try to make sure that everyone realizes that. The expectation is, and we do serve a good number of meals on those Fridays. The expectation is the more students that we wind up having come back in and not learning fully remote, the less meals there'll be being picked up on those Fridays, but it'll equal out. That's the hope, that's the plan. So it can be a number of items. We just make sure that we have everything that is offered and given out is a complete reimbursable meal by USDA standards.
Okay.
Pat, I got one quick
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
Mike, on the Friday meals, if the kids come to school, are they still able to take the lunches with them home for the weekend? How does that work?
That's a good question, Mike. Kevin Burke invited me on to speak with parents the other day with a meeting that he had with parents. So our hybrid model, students are coming to school 2 days a week. Every other week, they may come 3 days a week, but depending on Monday or Friday holidays, it's not going to be very often. The waiver that's set in place and the model that we're serving under, which is the seamless summer option, we can deliver meals for 7 days a week. So if we have hybrid students coming in 2 days a week and mom or dad feel they really need the help, they can pre-order those meals for the other 5 days a week.
Nice. Great. Does that answer that, Mike?
Yeah, that's clarifies it. Yeah.
Okay, great. Anyone else have any questions of Mike? If not, thanks a bunch.
Oh, no problem. Thank you.
Okay, leading on to subcommittee reports, because signing of warrants, I did that this morning. Negotiations, we meet too often. We met again this afternoon and we're meeting again next week. I think it's the 20th. So we just keep working on things. I think the the hybrid plan just opened today, and I think it's sort of something we're going to have to keep working on between the school committee and the teachers and the support staff. So no new news. How about building and grounds?
We did have a building and ground subcommittee meeting. Kevin Seaman was wonderful and was able to answer all of our questions regarding the products that were going to be used to sanitize and clean the buildings. And that is pretty much what we discussed.
Okay. Has CNP met at all?
No, we have not.
Okay. And budget, I don't believe has met either.
No, budget hasn't met. We're gonna wait till after or to
After the
schedule at the
election.
next next meeting. I just had a quick question on building and grounds. I had a question asked me today about air purifiers for the classrooms. Are they on order, or what's how and when are those going to be implemented?
So they are on order.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Tanya, so we do have them on order. The last I heard was 2 weeks ago. I sent an email today to the salesperson asking when they were going to ship. I was told 2 weeks ago that they were in customs waiting to be cleared, and that he had sent our labels to the warehouse so they would be shipped as soon as they came off the container. I just checked my email now. I haven't received an email back from him tonight. If I don't get anything by tomorrow, I will make a phone call and see if I can track them down. If he's not going to be able to provide them in the amount of time that we need to get them, which is soon, then I'll continue looking, but I'd like to stick with what we have now, if at all possible. So
Pat,
they are ordered, they're just held up in shipping somewhere.
okay,
Probably
Pat, I can.
everybody in the world wants one.
Pat, I think I maybe can shed some light on the customs issue.
Sure.
A lot of the products for the building trades right now, especially if they're coming into the Canadian port, they've been on a strike up there, and anything from boilers to heating products that are coming in from out of the country are being held up because of that strike.
Ah, that makes sense. Hopefully they'll settle that strike and we can get what we need ASAP. Has the policy met at all? I don't think they have, but
We have not met, but this week I've been in touch with Tracy Novick over at MASC, and they have some stuff ready for us to look at.
oh,
So
great.
we'll be meeting on October 27th at 7 p.m. to discuss that.
At 7,
At 7, yes.
writing myself a note so I don't forget. And the district agreement subcommittee, have they met at all? I don't believe so.
They haven't met
Okay.
recently, but I think at some point we're gonna have to reconvene, because I think things were getting finalized, not quite finalized. So at some point that committee will have to meet again.
Okay. Who was on that committee? Do you know, John?
Sharon was one, and
It
then
was
Jess.
myself,
Kristen and Mike, were you on that,
Sharon,
Mike?
Mike,
And Sharon and Kristen, we were on it. And maybe Jess Marshall also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, I just wondered. Okay, so we have, does anybody else have anything they need to say? Oh, I like that hug, that's great. You're lucky, Jess, you can do that. Under new business, we have an appointment letter for Dupre. And I saw somewhere that we had some for other people also. So,
Dr. Potee, there's an appointment letter as well. So it's the
Okay.
Dupre Law Offices and Dr. Ruth Potee.
okay. So do we need to vote on that, or
Yes, you guys
I
do need
believe we do.
those. Again,
Yeah.
those should have been done back in May before the fiscal year ended after the
Yeah,
voted to pay for them. But when I was looking for those contracts, I wasn't finding them. So that's why we
okay,
put on. But again, with everything that was going on in the spring, I think that's just one of those things that didn't get addressed. So
okay,
Joanne does have those as well as the Melanson one in her like checklist of things to do for our spring meeting, either in April or May this year. So they all get done
great.
time next
Great.
year.
So we need to vote to send those appointment letters to Ray and to Ruth Potee. Is there anyone that would make a motion to do that?
This is Jess. I make a motion to send the letters of appointment of Dupre and Ruth Potee.
Okay, and is there a second?
This is Karen. I second.
All right. So I will go through and get votes. Karen?
Yeah.
Karen?
Yes.
Kristen?
Kristen Gonzalez, yes.
David?
David, yes.
Jim?
Jim abstain.
Mike?
Mike Townsley, yes.
Jess?
Jess Marshall, yes.
Abby?
Abby Pratt, yes.
And I have Jess down twice, but I won't ask you to vote twice. And I vote yes also. Okay. And aid transfer vote. Is there any information on that you have?
You guys have a document in front of you that's labeled FY20 rural aid that has a rollover amount on it. So I just want to explain real quickly what happened with some of our grants and, well, rural aid sort of like a grant, the way that we have to treat it financially. Because schools closed back in March, the state did something that they've never done before because they realized that with schools not open, we weren't able to complete projects or do things that we had originally intended on spending these funds for, but also realized that we may need extra funds in this year or finish up those things that we didn't get to do last year. So we have rolled over, let me take one step back too. In addition, some of the things that were originally intended to be spent through rural aid, we were able to spend through our regular operating budget, like things like repair and maintenance for the district. So we tried to roll over as much as we could in the rural aid to allow us to have funds to spend in FY21 that we wouldn't have otherwise had. So this is what's being rolled over for each of the lines in which you guys voted the rural aid to be spent. The two requests tonight, one is from Ariel LaRue, and it is that we transfer $3,000 from the line to pay instructional assistants to attend PD over to what currently says literacy committee stipend. And she is requesting that that be just changed to committee stipends because we have the literacy stipend going, but there's also some other committees that are being put together for some of the district goals that are happening. And that would allow us to have more flexibility with that. That would be for committee stipends. The second request is that the fund maintenance wide and what flexibility to use those funds to help us procure some extra custodial help for the rest of this year, which we're in the process of hopefully hiring an additional person or two people to help us through the rest of the year with some of our additional custodial needs due to COVID.
Okay. Do we need to clarify committee as to what committee or?
No, it
just sort of
voted that the 3,000 is transferred from the instructional assistant PD line to the committee stipend, and
okay.
that literacy committee stipend can be changed to any district.
Okay. That was my only question there was. So we need to vote on that. Who's willing to make that motion?
I'll make it. Make a motion to FY20 Rule 8 Fiscal 21 rollover in the amount, I believe it's $86,637.35, be approved as presented.
Okay, is there a second?
It's not a rollover, it's actually a transfer between the lines that I'm asking for, because the school committee has to vote between lines, just like we do with our categories within the regular budget.
Well, I just read what the document said. It says FY21 rollover under use of funds, and the top of the thing, it says FY20 Rule 8 FY21 rollover. So you tell me what it needs to say, and that's what we'll go by.
Sorry. So I was trying to give you the information on what was available in the funds. And I actually do, if you bear with me 1 second, this may help make the motion. I did, and I apologize because, again, I was working on all of the transportation routes with Cosmescus this week. I was trying to get the document to you with the information.
Is the amount correct? The 8637.35?
Yeah,
okay, so why don't we just say the update budget cents on this document?
So what we're doing is changing the language from literacy committee stipend to just committee stipends. We need to transfer 3,000 from IAPDs to that committee stipend line. And we need to change the use of funds from repairs and maintenance to facilities.
All right, well, it isn't listed out. I mean, the totals are there, but you don't have it listed there. So that's what's confusing.
I'm trying to get to that document right now that actually has that language, but my computer is, and I don't know if it has to do with the power outages there in Northfield, but if you guys want to move on to the next item, I will get logged into that VPN so that I can access the document that I'm trying.
All right, well, I guess we'll move on, Pat, and we'll wait for her to get that document up so it clarifies.
All right, that works. The other thing is other business not anticipated at this time.
Wait. No, you skipped strategic plan.
Pat, yeah, the PVRSD
I ran off and I have the old, one of the old ones and a new one. So, so what comes after this that I don't have?
The Pioneer Valley Regional School District Strategic Plan 2020 through 2023. And I'll let Ariel talk a little bit about this. And I did communicate with Karen today. And there's a few edits that she'd like to make, which I'm in support of. So I'll turn it over to Ariel.
Right.
Hi, everybody. This is Ariel here. How y'all doing? So the district strategic plan is something that is required for the district by the state. We initially drafted this, and by we I mean the admin team led by the superintendent, along with the principals and others on the admin team. We drafted it last year, and then kind of it's been sort of percolating and getting ready to go. And then as we've come into this year, we've kind of reviewed it and looked back at the language and the goals, and we seem to be on track and made some revisions based on the very unique situation that we all find ourselves in now with remote learning and all of that. So I believe you all had a copy of the strategic plan to review. Is that correct?
Yes,
we did.
Okay. Yep. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I think the reason why that this has been given to me to talk about is because at least 3 out of 4 of these goals are I'm working with every day, and everything that I'm doing in planning curriculum, professional development, working with teachers and principals is coming under the umbrella of the key goals that are within this document. So there are 4 goals. And the first one is the one that I don't personally think about every day, but Tanya thinks about every day, and John thinks about every day, and that being fiscal stability. So as it says under A, we will, working with community leadership, administration, faculty, and parents, create a long-term financial plan that ensures stability over time for fully funding the PVRSD. So that is ongoing and in progress, and not particularly my area of expertise, but that's what Tanya talks to you about every month. B is reimagine and redesign school. And it says we will develop and expand progressive curriculum, universally designed for all learners, creating authentic, deeper learning opportunities to prepare students for success in the 21st century world. So as me and John and the plan that I've been doing with PVRS, a lot with the grant that I got, the Cte grant, that is looking at bringing in certificate programs and utilizing our land more in our curriculum. That was one of the things that kind of fell underneath this category. But due to COVID, we are all now reimagining learning through remote learning and learning to do things in a completely different way. So I think pretty much all the goals of the district this year, or of the teachers and of the principals, are well in line with this column. Column C says support social and emotional learning. And me as the curriculum director, this I kind of think about the revisioning curriculum is not just secondary, because we're looking at new ELA curriculum at the elementary level as well, but at the elementary level and then upward into the secondary level, focusing on social and emotional learning and sort of bringing in common curriculum and language. We have hired the SEL coordinator, and I have contracted with the Collaborative for Education to bring in social and emotional learning professional development for both elementary and secondary.
Hello? I think she's frozen.
Oh.
With current circumstances and just in
there we
general.
go.
And D, the last one. Is somebody talking to me? No? Okay.
Yes.
D, the last. Yes? Who's talking?
I am. It's Pat. Yes.
All
Do
right,
the last one. You're freezing every once in a while, that's all.
Oh, sorry. Well, so are you. All right, D, the last one. Engage the community as partners in learning, and that is we will collaborate with local partners to develop programs that will expand learning opportunities for our students. And if you have the chance to read down through the action steps, I'm not going to go through all of those now. This is where we're incorporating work with Greenfield Community College for early college access. This is collaborating with community businesses in order to bring in specialized learning opportunities to enrich curriculum and give back to the students, and also giving students real world experience and hopefully in the future coordinating things like internships and really taking down that divide between the school and the community, and really integrating them as much as possible, because the community are some of our greatest allies in teaching and learning and helping to build a robust curriculum for students pre-K through 12. So those are the 4 goals. And then one key element is that the Department of Education, elementary and secondary education, DESE, requires that the district plan be available to teachers and to principals, of course, to frame the goals that teachers and principals are using in order to drive their evaluation and their development, their professional development. So as the person who is in charge of professional development across the district, this is really important to me that I'm pulling from these goals in order to coordinate professional development and work with principals in the work that they're doing in their buildings, in order to kind of make it so that teachers are really working sort of within the fabric of the whole for their individual professional development as well, and that it's all kind of working together as one system. And so then the very last thing I'll say is that Karen O'Neill did reach out to me today, as did John. And Karen, I think this is actually a really great opportunity for us to bring back to the table the topic of heterogeneity. Do you want to tell us what it is that you brought up earlier today?
Oh, sure. Now, first of all, I want to just say how much I admire that you've been able to put this on a page and a half and say so many important things. So the team did a really great job with this, I think. And reading through it, I was struck with how the district's strong commitment to heterogeneous education, philosophy that has differentiated our district from its neighbors, is expressed. This philosophy has brought us, I think, great success in the past in attracting students from outside the district, and it is a microcosm for what a democracy should look like, diverse individuals learning side by side. So I think it would be wise to add the word or words about heterogeneous setting into the vision portion of the document, specifically after the word collaboration. We could place in a heterogeneous setting, just as we have in our mission statement.
Absolutely. And Karen, I don't know if you saw my email that I sent to you in response to your email to me, but when John called me today and told me that you had brought that up, I was like, actually like, great, I totally agree with her. And I'm so glad you did, because this is exactly the collaboration we need. And I wish that I had thought when we were doing our original draft to put it in, because I absolutely still very much see our district as heterogeneous. And even though in some ways we've moved away from it in certain areas over the last number of years, right. And in history, I came to the table with the school committee to speak about that. And so I think I'm so glad you brought it up, because it is a time, and I think, I'll bring this back to the admin team table and we can add that in, because I think all of us, and we really do need to remember that heterogeneity is the foundation of what we do, and it is what sets us apart. And I think it does integrate into all of these goals. And in one way, I apologize for not having remembered to put it there, because I was actually one of the people who wrote the mission statement. And so I'm happy to put that in, because you're right, it should be in there. So.
Okay, and thank you. And I did not receive your email. My emails have been coming in, spot here, a spot there, sometimes 3 hours after they're sent.
Right. And I did try and call too, but I got voicemail. So sorry, I wasn't blowing you off. I wasn't not responding.
That's great.
But I thought it would be a good thing to talk about it here.
Yeah, and I think there's another strong reason for having it in this document, and that is in the future, we might be approaching a merger, with a neighboring district, and we should want all of our documents like this one to support our philosophy. Because that's just as important as fiscal considerations, I think. So there you go.
Are there any other comments or questions?
Ariel, I got a question, Ariel. Is there any way to get any more supporting documents to the last three segments of that? I mean, the financial piece, we see those on a regular basis. For us that don't do education daily or haven't been in the education field, I just feel that I need more supporting document to explain so I can understand it better and be able to make better informed decisions.
Yes, I think that probably it would be a lot of documents. I'm trying to think what would be the most efficient way to present that to you. For column B, Reimagine and Redesign School, I can certainly give you my Cte Grant Proposal, for which we were awarded the grant, the competitive grant. And then I think perhaps the hybrid and remote learning plans, or looking at some of the work that has been collected by the principals, by teachers, for the work that they're sharing about doing online learning, because although we didn't intend for it, that certainly is having us reimagine what school looks like. And those things will carry forward. Social and emotional learning, you met Kim Tran last week, or not last week, last month.
Yeah.
And the plan that he's putting together, I don't know if there are specific documents. I mean, I suppose we could show you our notes and our standards, or the professional development agendas that are coming up from the Collaborative for Education.
Well, I guess I think the easiest, I mean, you don't have to explain it all tonight. I think the easiest thing is just to give looking at a page and a half of this really doesn't give me the full explanation of how you arrived there. I mean, I don't need right down to the T or anything, but a little bit more of a brief layout of how you arrived at each one of those, maybe.
Oh, none of those are how we arrived at it. Those are just the work that has been going into it in the last year. So I don't know, does anyone else have any suggestions on, or maybe we can talk about it later in the admin team, is what documentation would show how we arrived at this?
Yeah, I think we can meet at a later time, Mike, and provide those documents to the school committee. And then if there's additional, questions or things, then we can try to, look at other things and ways we can, documents we can provide. So I guess we'll talk and provide you with some documents and see if that, covers everything you're looking for. And we'll try to cover B, C, and D of this section with some supporting documentation.
All right. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, I have old agenda pages. I don't have a new one, so I'm not sure what comes next.
Can I circle to the transfer on the rural aid now that I have that document available?
Oh, great, please do.
Let me just present my screen again one more time. I do apologize that wasn't part of the original document that came out. So if you guys can see here, it's basically the document you guys were provided.
Right.
Changing the language here to just say committee spending, changing this to just say facility expenses, and then the transfer from this line, subtracting 3,000 and adding it here. Does that make it clearer for you guys?
Yeah, that's clear.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Mike.
So no, just basically it's a language change and where the amounts are going.
Language change and what the purpose of the funds can be used for, and then the transferring of the 3,000 from one line to another.
Right. Okay, so the total didn't really change. You just did the language change.
No, the total
and
didn't
moved the
change.
3,000.
Yeah, we just have to
Okay.
vote. Basically, it's like a budget transfer, but because it's with its own fund, our overseer wants the school committee to still be apprised of us changing the use of funds, or if it's the amount from one line to another is changing. The cost that we vote that with the rural aid. This isn't typical, again, because normally this rural aid would have been closed out and done with, but because we are rolling it forward, we want to make sure that we can use the funds. We're just trying to stay apprised and we're using it the best way for the district in the ways that we need it for what's going on currently.
Thanks.
All right, well, I'll make a motion that we vote on the change of the language in this document and the change of use of funds also in that document, and the amounts as shown that Tanya has presented.
Okay, is there a second to Mike's motion?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jim. So we will go through. Get your names. Karen.
Yes, Karen.
Kristen.
Kristen Gonzalez, yes.
David. I believe he's left.
No, David's here.
Oh, David's there. Okay.
I'll vote. David votes yes, but we don't want to vote on. We want to vote to. So I'm voting to do this, not to vote on it.
Okay.
Very good.
Roger.
All right. Jim.
I'm voting on it.
You would.
Mike.
Mike Townsley, yes.
Jess.
Jess Marshall, yes.
Abby Pratt, yes.
And have I gotten everybody? That's all I see, so, okay, and I will vote
Thank you,
yes also.
And I appreciate all the school committee's flexibility with these transfers and votes, as things have obviously been very fluid through the times we've been going through. So thank you guys for understanding and being willing to be flexible with the school's needs.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for all the work you've been doing. So what's the next thing on the agenda? If people have it in front of them. 'Cause I have
other
executive session.
Other business not anticipated at the time of posting. I got a couple
Okay.
of things, Pat, on that.
All right, please, go ahead.
As we know, we got the elections coming up here, and we're gonna have a change of people.
Yeah.
And we don't have somebody to set an agenda with John for the next meeting. I'd like to have some items put on that agenda before we leave tonight. One of the items that I'd like to see put on the agenda would be sixth grade move-up discussion. And also, I would like to see, as there's been talk again in the paper about the merger with Gil Montague, I'd like to have a discussion regarding that also put on the agenda.
Okay, Abby?
So I can actually speak to what's going on with the Six-Town Regionalization Committee or whatever, Planning Board, whatever we're called, right now, because I will no longer be on the school committee as of the next meeting to be able to give that update. So we've received the consultant's report and are individually working through it. I feel like I saw an email before the power went out yesterday about when our next meeting was, but then
I have that too.
yeah, so the report is in and the committee's gonna go through it and then take next steps, hopefully be meeting with the community and the school committees involved to start talking about that and getting community input on what the consultants had said.
All right, so can that report be sent to us so we can have that on the agenda for next month? Because I think the new members need to be, whoever's going to be on it is briefed on it. That's why I'm bringing it up. I just don't want to ignore something that's being discussed, with the towns, and the school committee needs to be aware of what's happening there. But I think the sixth grade move-up discussion needs to be started again, and further discussions regarding that merger to see, what the school committee's going to do. So I don't know if John wants to have those two items that put on the agenda, if he could do that.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, thank you.
And Mike, I'll reach out to Alan and Greg and ask that document be sent to John to get out to us or to the school committee.
Right.
There is a link to the planning board, all of the documents, and I believe that the consultant report is up there as well through the Gil Montague website as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I was looking for that email and I can't find it either, Abby. So I know there is another planning board meeting, but I'm not sure when.
Yeah, it's on a Friday from 4 to 6, I think.
Yeah,
which
it's a
is the time
strange
that I
time.
can't make it to anyway.
Yeah, it's a strange time.
Yeah.
Jess has got her hand raised. I think she's on that committee as well.
Yeah, Jess?
No, I'm not on that committee. I
No,
have
she's
another
not.
item that I just was thinking about over this week too, of thinking about kind of coming to a close and unfinished business that we have kind of dropped. Many things have come up. Some things have dropped away. And that was the discussion about what is happening with the Bernardston-Leiden School and the name and all of the pieces. There was at some point a smaller committee, or that was becoming a side conversation, but I feel like that's something we should keep in our sights as the new members come on board.
Yeah, see what I mean about?
A sign, you're talking about the sign? Or
The
some kind of
sign,
a,
or figuring out what that language will, what the name will actually be, and how the towns are both represented, or, I mean, it was pretty loose where we were. I mean, there were pieces that came together, but there were pieces that were still kind of in limbo land, it seemed like.
Yeah,
about
I
it.
think the hope was that those committees were actually going to meet together to decide on how to rename it and put something together legally that they could, and then COVID happened.
Can we drop that in the hands of Building and Grounds? And see if they
I believe
can,
that's up to the towns, really.
Well, right. Part of the issue that we ran into when we had this discussion is some of this has to be completed by the towns. So it would be important to include their select board to gain the detailed information around, you know, some of it we can do, but some of it also is at their discretion.
okay, but,
So it requires a further conversation.
and who is going to proceed with that conversation is what my question is.
So maybe John could request that those two select boards have a joint meeting to start the discussion about the renaming of the school, because it is Bernardston's building. And then they can let us know what they need from us as a school committee, possibly, or from you guys as the school committee, maybe.
I also think that we really need to get legal involved in this discussion because of the legalities of changing a school name that is owned by a town.
Exactly.
And it's in the way that it's listed in our regional agreement too.
And it may be something that that Bernardston would have to vote at an annual town meeting.
Yeah, I think it's the process that we need clarification on.
Yeah,
and
I think so
then maybe this is a opportunity for a subcommittee to work collaboratively with the select boards to figure that out.
Exactly. That's why I mentioned Building and Grounds at that point.
I have no problem putting it on the agenda for our next meeting if so that we don't lose track of that topic.
That would be good.
I don't know what will come as of November with members, but I'll note it here so that we can discuss it at the next meeting.
Okay, that would be great.
Thanks, Kristen.
Is there anything else that people are thinking of that we should talk about at the next meeting, or you should talk about at the next meeting?
This is Karen, and
Uh-huh.
I'm thinking about what do we know about our upcoming elections? Do we have any people on the ballot in Warwick, for instance? I know we don't have any people on the ballot in Leiden to fill Abby's position, and that would have to be a write-in or an appointment. So I'm wondering about the other towns.
I don't know about Seth or my position in Northfield.
So
I haven't heard anything.
There is one write-in candidate, I believe, that the town has.
Who would that be?
I believe it's Julie Burke.
Okay, great.
Yeah, Julie.
So
Julie Burke,
I do know about that. And
okay.
If with Abby's resignation, it would be the town moderator that would appoint her position because her term is still has not ended officially.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And how about in Warwick, Jess? Do you know of anybody?
I don't know who. I haven't heard anybody yet.
Okay. And there's 3 positions in Warwick?
There's 3. Well, I don't know what David. Yes, there's 3 positions because I don't think he put papers in. So
yeah. Okay.
And I guess
So
these would also be an appointment because her term, I believe, is also still for 2 more years.
Exactly.
I'm not sure about that.
So I read in the recorder that David said he was open to write-in.
I did read that too. So we'll see. I don't know how many names it takes to fill a position, but we'll find out.
We could have a small group at our next meeting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it
so
would be
we
all these
should-
recommendations for bringing people up to speed. Some of them might not be there yet.
Right. And we need to talk to Russell to find out if we don't have a full committee, how many it would take to make a quorum.
Right.
I'll reach out to him and ask.
Yeah, that would be good to find out.
Pat, I don't know something that the school committee has thought about yet, but Are there any plans to return to in-person meetings? Or has there been any discussion of what the timeline for that will look like? Because I know at the buildings right now, we're asking that, you know, nobody be in the building that's not absolutely necessary, whether it be volunteers or other individuals. So I think that would apply to the school committee, but I'm not sure what you guys have been thinking. I just was curious because the calendar hasn't changed yet, but yeah, we're still having them remotely. And I think a decision was supposed to be made before this meeting.
I think we need to speak with,
person
you know, our school physician and nurse and.
Yeah, and I think maybe we, even though October was our date, we maybe the committee maybe needs to wait until we get new members to have them weigh in on how they're feeling one way or another.
Yeah.
Who knows?
That could be a while.
Carla to the November meeting?
Yeah, it wouldn't do any harm. It's pretty right on. So.
Is there a way, no, we don't have any, I was gonna say, is there a way, John, to have a preliminary discussion with those involved? Because they've all been working together regarding our reopening plan and our hybrid model. If they could provide us with just some information, like in an email format, a recommendation that they think, so that we can be prepared come November.
Sure.
I mean, there are only going to be a few of us that are still at this table at the November meeting, and I would rather have some preliminary information to give us guidance so we're not scrambling, because I think there's going to be a lot of work to be done right off the bat, and with new members trying to get everybody organized, get their email set up, get their new training, you know, explain to them all of the stuff that they need to have to be very well prepared to sit at this meeting. It may be good to just start that conversation now.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we can do
There'll
that.
be six new members as far as I know. So that's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we will be going into executive session, but I would like to take good and welfare before we do that, if that's okay with people.
There's no executive session on my agenda.
There isn't. Okay.
There's not on mine either.
All right. See, I told you I copied off
Nor
an
on
earlier
mine.
one. I copied off an earlier one. So, is there personnel changes, staff changes that we need to speak on?
We provided a list. I know we have a new custodian at Northfield Elementary, Michael Piccini. So welcome, Michael, to the district. So we're excited to have Michael on board.
Okay.
Michael's last name?
Piccini.
Piccini, B-A-C-H-I-N-I.
Thank you.
All right.
I believe he went to Pioneer.
I know Mike. I remember Mike.
Yeah, he was a 2011 graduate from Pioneer.
Yep, I remember him too.
And I bet both
I
of
always
you,
remember the good parts of him.
it was either track or science, so. There's a vote on the MOU, but that's not ready to vote yet. Is it, John?
No, you can go
Okay.
on to the good and welfare piece. I know you've been wanting to talk about this.
And there's no other updates that we need to do, right?
No.
Nothing that has come before us. Okay. So I would like to recognize tonight we have several people that have been on the committee for a number of years. Starting with Seth, who was on it for a year. And Abby and Jess have been on it for 2 years. David was on for 6. Sue was on it for 3. And Sue and Sharon was on for 16. So I think all those people need to be honored for being on it. I mean, it's not just a short period of time for any of us. to take on that kind of a commitment. So I would like to say thank you to all of you that have also served. And I have a little spiel, so I'm going to say it anyhow. So bear with me. I'll make it short and sweet. During the 44 years I was on it, we renovated Bernardston Elementary, Pioneer, and Northfield Elementary, and we built Warwick Center School. So that's a pretty good deal. I have worked for 7 different superintendents, starting from the year I joined and ending with John at this point. And during that time, I have been chairman for 23 years. And I also worked during that time on changing from a 7-12 district to a K-12 district. It really wasn't that complicated, but it's something big to change from the superintendent going to multiple school committee meetings to going to just one. It seemed to make it a lot easier. I'm sure some of you remember those kinds of meetings. And during that time, I've gone to a lot of different Massachusetts school committee conferences. And back probably 20 years ago, Kevin, Courtney, and myself presented at a conference because we had just finished a legal matter that was between a school committee member and the school committee. And during that time, I learned an awful lot about legal proceedings and got an awful lot of help from MASC and MASS during that procedure. It was 2 long years and it felt like 5. I've really thoroughly enjoyed my interaction with all the different committee members and administration throughout the years. We've had a lot of challenges. Financial is one of those ever ongoing things that is always a problem for us. And we've been having ever-changing educational methods, laws on running meeting, mass general laws, a lot of those things that just keep changing over the years. And we always have to try to balance the best education we can get for our kids and keep in mind how much our citizens can afford. We live in an area that is not terribly affluent, and we have to realize that we need to keep our budget along with that, but we also have to make sure our staff and our kids don't suffer for that. So it's been fun. I'd do it over again, but I don't have 44 more years. So thank you for David and Jess and Abby and Seth and Sue and Sharon. And did I forget anybody? I don't think so.
Thank you,
So
Pat.
it was fun.
Yeah, Pat,
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you,
So,
Pat.
You're welcome. It's been, like I said, it's been fun.
Thanks, everybody.
So
Thank
having
you.
nothing, is there anything else that needs to come before us? If not, it's only 8:10. Can you believe it? Oh.
This is a record at your last meeting.
I know. Hallelujah, huh? Try to make a good one. I saw our student on here at one point, but then he left. So we have to make sure that he realizes that he is important, and we didn't do that tonight, I'm afraid.
Well, and Pat, he doesn't have power either. He lives right next door to me.
Oh, okay, so that's why he was off and
Your
on.
generator's been running
All right.
since last night, so I'm sure he's
That's
trying.
crazy. So I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I might as well. Go ahead, David. You do it.
I move we adjourn.
All right,
I'll
and we need a second. All right. So Jim, your vote is?
Yes.
All right, Jim?
Said Jim.
Oh, Jim, I mean, Mike,
Yes.
Karen?
Karen says yes.
All right, Jess,
Yes.
Kristen,
Yes, thank you, everyone.
and
Thank you.
Jim, and David?
David, yes.
And Abby,
Abby, yes.
and who did I forget? Is that everybody? Except for, I say so, yes, too. So,
Yes.
I'll see you on the computer.
Good night, everybody. Stay well.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Well, bye-bye.